when you see a Viola film, you see the snot come down her nose, the crying. Like, how does she get to all that? But I mean, when you have went through those experiences as a child growing up, those memories stick with you when you have to pull that as an actor and an actress. And I see why she's the best now, because she went through a lot.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for season 3 of Four Friends and a Book podcast. I'm Chris Colston here with Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, and Laria Reed. So if you're new to the channel, again, we're in season 3 of Four Friends and a Book. It's our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. We meet here to talk about that book, any relevant topics or current events that may or may not relate to that book. And just, of course, we hit you guys with these rants at the end. So somewhat of a book club, book review, mixed with just table talk amongst friends. So if you're new to this channel, I need you to stop right now. Like I said, we in season 3. So go back, check out season 1, season 2, and get current with this. For those that have been rocking with us from day one, look, we appreciate you guys. Continue to share with friends, family members, coworkers, like, share, and also leave us a review on any of our podcasting services. We would love to get that feedback from you. You guys are always looking for new book recommendations, new topics that you want to hear from us. So hit us up, slide in the DMs, leave us a comment. Look, send us an email, whatever you want to do. Just we want to hear from you guys. So hit us up here on Four Friends and a Book podcast. All right, so I kind of gave you a little recap. And again, we're in season 3. So if you don't know by now, we read books over here. So each month we have a selection that we're selecting from. And so the book to kick off season 3 is a memoir. Good memoir. Also on Oprah's book list for 2022. Very well-known actress. You guys know her from The Help. How to Get Away with Murder. More recently, The Woman King. We're talking about none other than Miss Viola Davis and her memoir, Finding Me. So, good book. Like I said, we know Viola from Broadway, the big screen, and also on TV. I mean, she's won the Tonys, the Oscars, the Emmys. She's done it all. So, very well-known actress, and now she has, I guess, given her story here in this book format in her memoir, Finding Me. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's unpack this book. Look, you guys already know what the question is. I ask it all the time. What were your overall thoughts, impressions about this memoir, Finding Me, again, by Miss Viola Davis? And I'm going to come to my brother Isaiah to kick this one off, man. What are your thoughts about this book?
For me, I watch Viola Davis in films and shows, but I never really read about her until this book. And as you mentioned, Chris, earlier about the things that she's done in her career, like, I like her as an actress, but I did not know any of her personal life until I opened up the book. But the things that she endured, really can't be put into words. For me, I know I never really missed a meal or had to lie in my own urine and go to school the next day, or had to fight with rats over a pillow. Don't want to get too much in the book, but you just know I never really experienced a lot of that stuff on the level that she has. I read many memoirs, but none come even close to Finding Me. What I really like about this book was she was very vulnerable and yet strong, and she did not let those struggles stop her. And, hands down, I rate this book a 10 out of 10.
Okay, good. Okay, he even came with the ranking. Yeah, let's keep them going. So, all right, I'm coming to Laria on that. So, what did you think about the book? And if you had to rate it from on a 1 to 10 scale, where would this book, Finding Me by Viola Davis, where would that land for you?
Well, it was a great book. it was very transparent. She went into a lot of details. You know, most of the time when we read a memoir, it'll be maybe one or two chapters about their upbringing and what they went through or something like that. And they kind of hit on some things and you get it. But she went like, I want to say it was like 11 chapters because I was like, every chapter we're still talking about her growing up and what happened in her life, the abuse of her mother and the friction in the home. I mean, it was like she was in a war zone her whole entire elementary childhood going into high school and just I mean, molestation, all kinds of stuff that this lady endured. I would have never even guessed from the woman that she is today that she would have gone through all of those things. So when I see the word resilient, she is the person's face that should be under that word because I mean, I don't know how she even came out of that. And so, you know, that had to have been God and it had to have been a lot. All of those things built her with her personality to be who she is. And she even talked about getting out, what was going to be her thing to get her out of this. And so I, I'm hats off to her. I think the book was excellent. Of course, I'm gonna always give books a 10. I'm like, everything is great to me. I love everybody's book. I know it takes a lot to put it out there and for her to just be so open about everything. Yeah, she deserves a 10. It was a great book. I think everybody should read it so that you can have a better understanding of who she is as a person. It was great.
Okay, good. Good points. Good summary there. All right, coming to Miss Kimberly Lake on this one. So, what are your thoughts about this book, this memoir, Finding Me by Viola Davis?
I thought it was an excellent memoir. As Loria said, she was very descriptive. Like, I feel like I was with her from her childhood to now. Like, she was talking about the school. I mean, getting married. Like, everything was so descriptive. And I listened to the Audible version, and she read it. And she's a great actress, so it was like her words were coming to life in my mind. I was seeing everything. I was seeing the rats. I was seeing everything. So I think the book is excellent. It was very transparent. I didn't know much of it. Like, I liked How to Get Away with Murder until it went too crazy. And like, I've seen her and stuff, but this made me a fan of her. And I think that's something a book like this says a lot. Like, I liked her as an actress, but I really like her as a person. So I think anybody should read this book. I would rate it. I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I won't give it a 10. But I thought it was really good, and it's a quick listen. It's not very long, but it's very descriptive. But I thought it was a great book, and I really recommend for anybody to read it.
All right. So good. Yeah, you guys all make good points. Very good book. And again, I think we did this for season 2. We opened up with Will Smith's memoir. So now even reading about Viola Davis. And I think, you can really connect with somebody that you are familiar with. So again, we've seen her on Broadway. We've seen her on television. We've seen her in movies. And so to get this behind the scenes, kind of in-depth, just firsthand account of her life, it really allowed you to connect with her on a different level. Man, like like Loria mentioned, talking about resiliency, I mean, she has gone through so much in her childhood, her upbringing. And like you just I would have never known that this was her life. And these are the things that she's gone through. Like I said, we just, we glamorize and just kind of see the glitz and glimmer of entertainers, but not really knowing what they have gone through even to get to this point. Even some of the hardships she's had, even as being an actress and even making it, she's still having struggles. So she did a great account of just really putting her life like on the table, not holding anything back. I mean, like I said, childhood, peeing in the bed, being chased in school, running home, like being hungry. It just she covers so much. And like I said, she does a good job. So it was a great read for me. Thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And I think you guys all really, touched on some good points that she had within this book as far as just being transparent and putting everything out there. So all right. So moving along, again, we kind of talked about some of these
What's your
points within the
rating?
Rating. I can't give her a 10. It wasn't 10 worthy. So I listened on Audible too. I'm gonna give her. And we still coming out my boy Will Smith, and he didn't change my whole perspective. I'm gonna have to give her like an 8, maybe. It was a good story. A lot of transparency. It was up there, but yeah, not quite. Will done messed me up, man. He done changed the game for me, so maybe I should have read her book before.
Yeah, that was a good book. Will's book was very good. For real, for real.
So look, and if you guys haven't already, look, season 2, we talk about Will Smith memoir. Look, Will even show up in this book. There's a moment even within this book that Will Smith pops up as well. So yeah, I'll give her a strong 8, maybe 8.5. It was a good read, good book. But yeah, okay. All right, so we kind of talked about it a little bit, different moments throughout the book. So let's kind of, I want to get y'all perspective on the moment that was most memorable or just kind of stood out to you as she's telling her life story. So what was that moment throughout Viola Davis telling her kind of life story within her memoir, Finding Me, that you really resonated with or kind of connected with or really stood out? So I'm going to come to Laria on this one. What was that moment? Or did you have a moment?
You better not come to me first on this one.
What was that moment or a series of moments or whatever it was within this book?
It was so many. It was a lot of moments. But one moment that I preferably really remember, and it's kind of one of those moments I think of all the time, is when they were being bullied by the bullfrogs, they called them, the people down the street. And one of the girls called her mom came down, and one of the girls called her mom a bald head bee. And the mama slapped the little girl and had to go to court. I was like, because in my mind, I'm like, she's not gonna hit this kid, but she did. And they had a whole situation about it. So I just thought it was not right. But at the same time, it was like, and it's very, what was very interesting to me is Viola talks about how her father would hit her mom so much, but her mom would stand up to other people, but never to her father. And her father did, she would never leave her father. But she would always tell Viola, like, don't let people bully you. You make sure you stick up for yourself. You make sure you don't do this. But she allowed this man to just mess her whole life up by violently, it was abuse on all ends. So that's very interesting to me that she would be so violent with someone else, but allow someone to do that to her without leaving. So, it was just, that was very different. I didn't see that coming because she was an abused woman. I didn't think that she would abuse, but like they say, people do things that they have done to them a lot too. So
her mama had to turn the tides and then she had to get that anger out some kind of way. She had to
you're right.
slash on fire to little girl. You know how mama's about their kids, so
right. Right.
You also got to remember the time frame we're talking about too. So I mean, this was back in the day. So. Yeah. Everybody can beat you back then. I don't know about slapping, but you can get it from everybody.
Yeah, that was one instance. I had so many I couldn't narrow down which one, but that one really stuck out to me because I was like, I can't believe she hit somebody and she be a hit on a regular basis. But
yeah, I think for me it was the common theme about the rats. Like it was crazy how they were battling these rats. Like even her childhood, even in her adulthood, like so growing up in what was it in Rhode Island. Central Falls, Rhode Island. They live in kind of in the hood, kind of in just a rundown type of apartment. I mean, they was very poverty stricken. And she really touches on a lot of that. But I mean, them kind of talking about you mentioned earlier, like them, peeing in the bed, like Isaiah talked about it, and like she peed in the bed because they were afraid to get up because the rats, like the rats were that just prevalent, like throughout their house, really just took over the place. Like they when they went to bed, they didn't want to like get up because the rat was everywhere. And even when she, got a little older and got an apartment in New York and still battling with these rats. So it's just, I don't know, that was just really crazy to me. I mean, you hear about this kind of stuff, but I mean, her account of living with these rats was just like, man, it was a lot. So I was really, that was kind of that moment for me. And it was kind of a central theme throughout. But even her, talking about going to Africa, just really finding herself and really kind of becoming at one. I kind of connected with that as well. Your boy went to Africa one time and like she talked about the air being different. Like the air is different, man. Like it's like everybody need to go to Africa. Just go to the motherland. You need to experience it. So I connected with that piece as well. But there's a lot of good stories throughout this book. Just a lot of stuff. I mean, she just covered so much. So, Kim, what was that moment for you?
It was the same. Like her talking about the poverty. Like she was in a poverty. Like her and her family, like not being able to wash themselves and like them peeing on themselves and having to go to school stinking and all this stuff. But the rats, like, it was taking me out the store. I could not live. Like I was visualizing having to be in an apartment, and at night you hear all the rats and eating the food, walking around. Then when she was grown, subleasing that apartment or subletting that apartment, and she's like, I killed 11 rats one night, and I heard them scream. Like I had one gecko come in my apartment, and I was out of commission like all day. I can't imagine having all these rats. Like it was just that was a lot for me. So anytime she talked about those rats, it kind of just made my skin crawl. So,
all right, Isaiah, did you have a favorite part of the book or a memorable piece within this memoir that really kind of stood out to you that you connected with?
Yeah, I think for me, it was toward the latter part of the book. I remember when she was but when I read about she was getting a call about her dad was passing away. And, for him to survive heart surgery and to succumb to cancer was, it was a lot to deal with. And, plus for me, she had talked about how she had to actually forgive her dad, not as looked at her dad as in her eyes, but looked at him as the way her nieces and nephews saw them, because he did more for the nieces and nephews more than he did for the kids. And she just had to learn to basically forgive him, because as she wrote, life does not stop at all, whether you're dealing with a funeral or not. Even to that point, she was planning a funeral and she had to buy her nieces and nephew clothes to even wear to the funeral, not because she wanted them in something new, but because they didn't have any clothes. And while she's still covering a $3,000 electricity bill because 15 people staying in her parents' 800 square foot apartment, I'm like, goodness, how much can this woman do? And this is the point of, she's at the height of her career at this point. And I'm like you now, Chris, I'm becoming a quote guy. And one of the quotes I actually took from this book was, the question still echoes, how did I claw myself out? And there is no out. Every painful memory, every mentor, every friend, every foe serves as a chisel and is a leap pad to actually shape her. And I think all those things that she actually went through shaped her into the woman that she is today. And like we see it in how she's portrayed in her films. Like, when you see a Viola film, you see the snot come down her nose, the crying. I'm like, how does she transform into all that? But I mean, when you have went through those experiences as a child growing up, those memories stick with you when you have to pull that as an actor and an actress. And I see why she's the best now, because she went through a lot.
Yeah, no, that's good, brother. That's good. Yeah, and I think she kind of mentions it as well. I mean, of course, classically trained. I mean, she has all the credentials behind her, but I think her life and her ability to connect, the roles and the characters that she plays to life experiences really helped her to really come across well on the big screen. And so, yeah, good point. Good point. All right, so I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. We've been giving my boy Will Smith praise again. If you guys haven't read that memoir, go check it out. I mean, I don't want to we talking about Viola, but Will still shows up even in this, in Viola Davis's memoir, Finding Me. So there's a section in the book where Viola's actually doing a movie with Will Smith, and he poses kind of a question that really kind of got her pondering a little bit. She was like, he asked her, who are you? And she really was kind of taken back by that question. and really didn't know how to answer it. And, Will was kind of explaining to her, that he would always be kind of the 15-year-old boy that he kind of stuck in that place within his life where, his girlfriend had just dumped him. And it's kind of like a pivotal moment within his life or kind of defining moment within his life. And so he was posing that same question to Viola to kind of get her thoughts and inputs as far as who she was and to try to help define her a little bit better outside of what she may have kind of grown accustomed to, becoming an actress and getting into these roles or whatever. So, I would ask you guys about that. Do you have, if you want to answer, like, who are you? Or like, what does that mean to you? Or was there a defining moment or a memory within your life that really kind of stood out where you feel like it really, I guess, kind of solidified who you were as a person? So I'm gonna come on Miss Lake on this one. I want to hear from the dreamer on this one. Let me
Dreamer.
The first thing that came to my mind when I read that portion made me think. I actually go back to like I want to say second grade. And I remember the governor's wife came to our school in New Jersey and she wanted to read with students. And my teacher picked me from our class. So she told me beforehand, she's like, I picked you to go up here. Da, da, da. I'm like, okay. We go to the assembly, and so the governor's wife is like, I want some people to read with me, da, da, da. And my teacher is like, Kim, go up there. So I go up there and read, and I came back all excited. And when I say my class like hated me, like they were like, they iced me out like the rest of the day. And I was like, what? Like I didn't pick myself. But I think in that memory, I was internalized like, okay, if I do well or stick out, people won't like you. So I kind of like, in some instances, growing up, dim my light, quote unquote. So I won't get that kind of feedback from people. So that's one of the things I noticed, and that's one of the things I had to work on over time in life. But that's one of the memories that I think define me. But as we grow, we mature. But I think that's one of them.
Okay, good.
That's a good one.
All right. Coming to Mr. Toops on this one. How's it, Toops? Brother, do you have a moment or a memory that really kind of stood out that you feel defines you as a person, as a man that you are now?
I think for me, I talked about this in like one of the past episodes, probably the first episode that we ever did on this podcast about, when the moment my grandfather put my hands in his and told me to never let my hands look like his. And for me, I will always be that 6-year-old boy, wanting to make my granddad proud, and not saying that he wasn't proud of me, but because I just always wanted to make him proud of the things that I accomplished in life. I know that, being that type of mindset, it never allows me to settle. And I think I was even speaking with a friend about this, like what keeps you going, what makes you tick, and what makes you do the driving. And always, for me, it's always my granddad. Like I always want to make him proud, even though he's not here today, I know he's always watching over me and, just giving me that small confidence, like just keep going, don't settle. It's more out there into life. And I know, I'm always go back to that moment of that 6-year-old boy on that porch and still have that vivid memory of just don't let my hands look like yours and start using your mind instead of using your hands to, make things out of life.
That's good. That's good. Look, man, y'all, I don't even want to share that. Y'all
I'm like, this is good.
We the dreamers that are.
This is awesome. The dreamers first.
Yeah, look, we might lead this question to the dreamers.
Like, I'm like, man.
Like next, we gonna move on.
I know, yeah.
Laria, all right, look, optional. Do you have a moment if you want to share? Throw it out there for you.
I do, actually. I do. Okay. It's kind of along, the lines of like, I remember in the 6th grade, these girls, I was always cool with everybody. It didn't matter nationality, whatever. I was cool with everybody. Always talking to everybody, always, because I had the gift of hospitality is one of my things. I always want everybody to feel okay around me and feel like they're good. And these girls just didn't like me. And they were Black girls. They just, every day they like bullied me. They told me I sounded like a white girl. I made good grades. So they were like, oh, she thinks she all that, da, 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 da. I never said anything to these girls. I didn't even know they knew me. So I was trying to figure out, like, why are they so mean to me? What's going on? And my father and my mom told me, like, you don't have to do anything for people not to like you. Like that
Mhm.
was the lesson that I remember. Like you can be on your way doing your own thing, walking in your lane, doing you, and somebody may not like you. And that was the lesson that I learned is like, as I go through life, I'm not going to be everybody's friend. And I can just be me, be living my life, and people just not like me. And I've got to be okay with that's not my issue, that's their thing. And so that kind of taught me a life lesson like, you just got to keep running in your lane and you don't have to do something for people not to think that you're cool or whatever. You can be, hey, how are you doing? I don't like her. Yeah, I mean, and that's their right to do that.
Mhm.
They
That's
don't
right.
have to like me. So I had to be okay with it didn't make sense to me. And it still doesn't to this day make sense to not like somebody because you just, oh, she smiled too much. Oh, she say, she thinks she out like, what? You don't even know me. But that was a life lesson for me. And so I have to remind myself all the time, everybody is not gonna like you. To you doing your own thing, but somebody's gonna be offended by it. So just live your life and keep going.
That's good. That's good. Look, man, I ain't got no story. I don't know. I was
You got a story.
You do. You just don't want to tell us on camera.
maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Now, so I thought about this question, and I think I was more so trying to relate it to like a younger childhood experience, and I think that's what the issue was.
Mhm.
But I think for me, it wasn't a childhood experience. It was more like me kind of stepping into adulthood. And so when I think about a defining moment for me or that memory, it was really graduating college. And that was like a life changing experience for me because that was the first time I was faced with like really being challenged, really having a difficult time, just like overcoming the hurdles. Like I went to college thinking I was smart, got around all these other people, and I was like, yeah, boy, you ain't as smart as you thought you were, and having to really study and overcome and all those things. But it was also a good indicator for me that I had the tools that were necessary for me to really take on any challenge that I faced in life. And so that was kind of a pivotal moment for me of realizing that, like, Chris, you can do this. You'll face hard times. You'll face challenges, but you have the tools necessary. You have the people around you to support you in those endeavors to really to tackle anything that you may come up against. And so it wasn't really a childhood moment for me, but just stepping into adulthood. That's kind of always just rung true with me of understanding and realizing that I'm built for this. I have the tools necessary for me to really to face any challenge or any hurdle that I may come up on. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that was good, Chris.
Man.
I was reaching. That was a little reach. I was trying to.
No, it was good. It was good.
All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's pivot a little bit. We always try to find a topic, that may or may not relate to the book. And so again, for this month, our book was "Finding Me" by Viola Davis. So her, self-titled memoir, and she really covers her journey as far as her childhood, even stepping into, education and being classically trained at Juilliard, doing Broadway, been on the big screen and also doing movies as well. But one kind of common theme throughout this book, whether it was in her childhood, even in adulthood, and even in show business, was this notion of like colorism. So that was kind of one of the things that really stood out to me that I really, I guess, kind of noticed. Even her being as a child, being a dark skinned little girl and not hearing that she was beautiful, and then stepping into the show business, and there are certain you get kind of stereotypes, and there are certain roles that are historically not, you know, you don't see, dark skinned women in those roles because of the stereotypes or whatever. So this whole notion of colorism really was very evident throughout this book, like I said, in her childhood and even into adulthood. So I kind of wanted to touch on that topic a little bit because, we still see that today, even, Viola mentioned it, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen, how to get away with murder. And she had cast members and people that were on that show that really didn't think that she could do it. She couldn't be the leading lady because, you know, she was a dark-skinned Black woman. And so this notion of colorism is not new. I mean, we see even amongst our own, you know, community, our own culture, but even outside of that. So just want to kind of hear you guys' thoughts, opinions, if you even experience it yourself, you know, this whole notion of colorism and kind of, you know, what that is, what that means, you know, to you guys. Who want to tackle that one first? I ain't gonna call nobody out. I'm just gotta just speak up on this one.
I call Kim.
I was gonna call out Kim. So, all right, Kim, what are your thoughts on this whole notion? This thing of colorism, yeah.
So I had to think back. So me growing up, it's looking back like we didn't talk about like color in my house. Like it was never like light skin, dark skin. Like I don't ever remember those kind of conversations or anything like that growing up. I think for me, I agree with Viola Davis, especially when it comes to Hollywood, because growing up, even me seeing somebody that looked like me on camera as a girlfriend or in a desirable position, you didn't see that a lot. Like she said, like people were playing like the crackheads and all that stuff, but the girlfriend and somebody that you wanted to be like and emulate, it was going to lighter skinned women. And I agree with her on that. I think for me, even as a filmmaker, I have that in mind because I just think that seeing yourself is very important. You need to see somebody that looks like you. I remember Lupita talking about when she got got her award, and she was like, you know, somebody that a little girl is at home looking at me now, like my color and everything, and knowing that they can excel in Hollywood and that they can be desirable and be called pretty and beautiful and all that. I think that's very important. So I kind of want to change that in my way in film. So even the film I think I'm doing right now is on the hush hush. Y'all hear about it, you know, eventually. But like the main character, I want to put out there, I want her like dark brown skin, natural hair, because you need to see that. So I agree with Viola on that. I didn't experience colorism because I feel like as much because I'm kind of in the middle of the spectrum, so to speak. So it was never like I was too light or too dark. I don't think I had anybody really said anything to me about my skin color. So, but I know it exists. But I personally didn't get any interactions like that.
Okay, that's good. Isaiah, what are your thoughts on this topic, or do you have any inputs or experiences?
I think for me, I personally don't have any experiences, but colorism has definitely existed among the Black community. You know, we've seen it since the beginning of time of dark skin versus light skin, or thinking that lighter is better and darker is more frowned upon. On I know even with us, like, you know, you'll even hear like, oh, you're pretty to be a dark skinned woman, or you're pretty to be, you know, this dark skinned person, or why are you in the sun so much? Because you're going to get dark, like dark is being frowned upon. And just for me, for me, I think that melanin is what makes a part of all of us. And like Kim says, representation matters so much. And whether you see the light-skinned person or the dark-skinned person, everyone needs to see their own person, you know, and look and see if that person can accomplish it, so can I as well too. I don't know where this stereotype comes from of saying that darker is frowned upon, but I think that, you know, all melanin, all skin tones in the Black and brown community should all be looked at and highlighted. I don't know where that comes from, but, you know, for me personally, it has never affected me, but I have seen those I have heard those conversations and seen that, oh, you can't do this because you're darker, or why are you in the sun? I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong on all different levels, you know, of that colorism within us.
No, that's good. That's good. Maria, what are your thoughts on this topic of colorism? Like I said, not only just as Viola kind of captures it within Hollywood and like on the big screen, but I mean, even just from day-to-day life, like, have you had experiences, or what are your kind of inputs on this notion that we face with colorism? Like I said, not only within, you know, our community, but even externally as well, you know, amongst other ethnic groups and cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember in grad school, they were hiring, and there's a beautiful dark-skinned woman who was in my cohort for graduate school. And I said, girl, you want to apply for the job? That would be a great job for you. And she said, they're not going to hire anybody with my complexion. And I just kind of looked, it just kind of took me back like, what? This was like 2013, 2012, 13. And I just kind of jerked my neck back, and she was like, "Well, you can apply for it. You're lighter, so they would give it to you before they would me." And I was like, "What?" I said, "But you gotta try." Like what? And she was like, "I've been experiencing this all my life. Like they're not gonna get a woman my complexion." And it just really bothered me because nobody has ever come out that forward about a job and told me that, like, just, because I'm not thinking about it. I'm not darker skinned, but I'm not light either. Everybody called me red. I was talking about that earlier. They're like, you red, no, you just a red, you red. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that kind of really bothered me. But I have a lighter skinned, fair skinned Black friend, and she talks about how a lot of times darker skinned women treat her unfairly, like they'll be mean to her. They were when she was in school, in high school and stuff. She was bullied really bad because of her lighter skin. Because a lot of the darker skinned women, when they were girls, they were frowned upon to be dark skinned. So when they saw a lighter skinned woman, and it goes back to slavery days with the slaves being outside, and then when the master would want a darker skinned woman and they had their mulatto, as they call them, mulatto children, they treated them better because they were in the house, they were the house Negroes or whatnot. So, it's all slavery. We're all beautiful. We're all made of different shades, different colors of Black, different colors of people, period. And it's just stupid, to look at one person and be like, oh, great. But I think we do need representation of every shade of people, period. You need Asian, you need Hispanic, you need everybody, darker skin, lighter skin, everything. And I think we got to stop that foolishness because we can't do it to each other and expect other people to respect us as well. So it really bothers me when somebody says something about, oh, she Black is, oh, she real Black, but she's beautiful. And I mean, if you ever go to the Middle East and see how beautiful the people are there, where we really come from, I think it changed. Like he was talking about with Africa, the different shades of dark, of lighter, of the hair textures. I mean, I always joke with everybody. I'm like, I saw the blackest man I've ever seen. His skin was dark, and he had the most beautiful straight hair. He just was completely different than anything I'd ever seen. And I'm like, man, it's just so many different kinds of people with different shades. It's okay. We need to appreciate all of that and show all of that. So I think it's just retarded to be in 2022 talking about somebody's complexion. It's just ridiculous. And it's ridiculous that we even have to be discussing it in a book and she had to go through that being a darker skinned Black woman. It's ridiculous to me. So
yeah, that's good. I think you guys all kind of bring up good points, and still a very relevant topic, even today. And Loretta, you make a good point. I think a lot of this is rooted in kind of our history within this country. Even I guess even beyond our borders. You hear about in other countries, in South America. Think about my boy Sammy Sosa, like
they're bleaching the skin. They're doing that in Africa too. They're bleaching their skin to be lighter. Like why?
Yeah. And so
because you get jobs that are when you're lighter there too. And I'm just like, you in Africa, you in the what? What's going on? You Dominican. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And so it is really sad that, there's been this misnomer that, fair skin, gives you better access and stuff. And, people are going to those extreme lengths, even to try to lighten their skin because they feel like they have better opportunities and can have more access. I feel like things are getting better. Like you mentioned earlier, I think it is rooted in kind of the history of slavery and kind of the divide. We had the paper bag test and things like that. Even me, man, I grew up in the 80s. I was kind of the darkest skinned kid on my block. All my little friends were light skinned, all the light skinned men were in it doing the 80s or whatever until my boy Michael Jordan came out. Then if the Black man got a little more shine, then But yeah, I guess, even we've had these eras within our own culture where, we've kind of catered more towards, fair or light skin and then, dark skin. I think now we have come to realize that, there's beauty across all the different hues and shades. But it still is an issue, and it still is problematic. And like even Viola covers it here, like it's still problematic even in Hollywood, because they're looking at this the European standard of beauty, and if you don't adhere to that, then you can't be the leading lady. You can be, like Kim mentioned, you can be, the friend or the close friend, but you can't be the focal point. And so I think we do need representation. We have to change this notion that you have to look or be a certain way to be attractive or to have appeal across the board. Whether that's skin tone, how you wear your hair, all those things. There's room and beauty across all the different cultural backgrounds and different shades, and we have to kind of really appreciate that we don't have to look all alike to be still wonderfully made. And I think I feel like we're trending in that direction, but there's still a lot of kind of baggage in that area. And so yeah. All right, good discussion. I always appreciate you guys' feedback and input, y'all own, personal journey and experience about this stuff. So, we want to connect with the people, let them know what we think about here on Four Friends in the Book also. All right, well, look, guys, we just wrapped up this book, Finding Me by Viola Davis. Had a discussion about her just growing up in poverty and excelling to the actress that you all know her to be now, and just her kind of rise to fame and hearing that story. Had a discussion about colorism and just kind of how that was perpetuated throughout her life, and also how we're seeing it even today, in today's time as well. So good discussion, good book for this month. But you know what time it is. It's that special time of the show we have at every episode, which we call The Rant. Season 3, we still at it. We still doing these rants. We still light them up. If you're new to our podcast, The Rant is a period of time where Mr. Rant Man himself, Isaiah Toots, he just talks freely. We don't debate. We don't really have a drawn out discussion about it. Just let him speak freely from the heart, whatever's on his mind. Look, we here, we never know what we getting. It's new to us, just like you guys are getting it. So, Mr. Rant Man, Isaiah, brother, go on, do what you do. Starting now. Go.
Chris, this is ironic that you was talking about graduating from college, because I want to tackle this student loan debate. Black and brown students finance their education through debt, and thus college degrees further contribute to that. Education does not achieve income sameness for Black and brown workers. The disproportionate debt Black students are taking to finance their education reinforces the racial wealth gap. Today, the average white family has roughly 10 times more amount of wealth than the Black person. Regardless of the incomes they make after graduation, Black households carry more student debt, which pushes their credit worthiness down. Unsurprisingly, Black people with a college degree have lower home ownership rates than white high school dropouts. The student loans need to be canceled. Some broke the cycle by even taking out loans to go to school. And for most people, student loans are going to heaven with them anyway. And do whatever you want with that information. And that's that on that.
That's good, bro.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and there's been a hot topic and a debatable topic, here with some of the legislation that's going on now, as far as some reprieve for student loan. Then some people are upset they've already paid their loans off. Other people, feel like they should have gotten something. But I agree, man. It's crazy to go into debt trying to educate yourself, especially when you hear about other countries and the access that they have. We think about America being, United States being the kind of the greatest country, and we still are having these issues. So good rant, good information as always, brother. And we thank you for hitting us with this rant to educate us once again. All right. So just wrapped up the book, Finding Me by Viola Davis, her self-titled memoir. Talked about colorism, hit you with this rant. Four Friends in the Book. We read books over here. We want you guys to read with us each month. So Isaiah, tell them about the book we got coming up for next month.
Okay. Hey guys, before we even let you go, please join us in our next episode as we tackle The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And you don't want to miss that episode. L'Real, tell the subscribers when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday right here on whatever station you're watching us on. It can be Facebook, YouTube, wherever. But make sure that you follow us in all of that so that you can know third Thursday to make sure that you're with us.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook to stay up to date on what we're doing.
And again, as always, we appreciate you guys for your support, for rocking with us here on Four Friends in the Book. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow. Let's have a discussion here on Four Friends in the Book. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.